Hey everyone, this is going to be an exciting conversation with Dana from Hemlane. How you doing, Dana?
I'm great. Thanks, Michael, for having me.
One of the things I want to talk about with you that I don't do but is wildly popular today is what most people call house hacking, right? Where you buy a house, three, four, five bedrooms. You are now renting the bedrooms, but there's common living space, right? There's a kitchen for sure. There's probably a living room or a family room. Like, how do you handle kind of that space, cleaning, rules of the house, all of that stuff? Because I've looked at it and go, wow, that's too much for me. But given how popular it is, I thought we should talk about it.
Yeah. And, it used to be called room for rent, and now they're coming up with names. They're calling it co living, right? Having a little bit of a millennial feel of bring people together into a college dorm room type situation. And there's a lot of things that you can talk about pros and cons of co-living. Obviously, everyone knows that you get a higher price per room, so your total rent that you get is significantly more.
Significantly, yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of times people ask, why don't you guys do that? And there's certain companies and property management companies that focus 100% on co-living. And part of it has to do with, and one of the things for you to think about is the additional administration associated with co-living and room for rent. When you draft those leases, they're separate leases. So no one is jointly responsible. And a lot of times you become the parents, right? So if Michael and I live together and, we're jointly responsible on a lease and he doesn't pay his portion, I'm responsible to pay his portion. And as the landlord, you can basically say, I don't care who pays what, the total amount needs to be paid. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad.
Hmm.
You guys figure it out. You guys have roommate drama. That's great. That's on you, not on us. And so when you get to a room for rent and co-living, it suddenly with different leases, there's a lot of questions of who's responsible for what. In the communal areas, what is the landlord going to be paying for when there's drama and conflict? That goes on to you. And it's a lot of he said, she said.
Hmm.
And it's very difficult because you never know a relationship or a situation unless you're in it. I always tell people about that, about marriages and everything. And it's the same with tenants. Like, you don't really know, Michael could sound great and I live with him and I sound terrible, but maybe Michael was in the wrong, or vice versa. You just never know. And so with it, people always ask about the communal area. Well, that becomes your responsibility, right? And so a lot of times with the furnishing, the upkeep of it, the general wear and tear just tends to be a lot more. There's more turnover with the properties. We've spoken, Michael, about garbage disposals breaking and who's responsible. If you say, well, they put potato peels down it, and everyone knows potato peels shouldn't be down it, Michael and I could be living there together, and Michael's like, well, Dana did it. And I'm like, well, no, actually that was Michael's potato peels. And as the landlord, it's very difficult to put that on them. And so that's why, with rental properties, I've always had rental properties where um, everyone's jointly responsible on the lease. However, if you are in this co-living in this room for rent, you will get into some situations where it's a little bit more difficult. And as Michael said, if it's a gray area, usually it's the landlord's responsibility. So if you can't point blame on one of them, you just have to know you're going to have to foot that bill. So there's a lot of actual additional expenses. If you're looking at your expenses, there's a lot more administration that happens and occurs when you're doing co-living. That is a cost you should build into your model, because you're going to get a lot more involved with the tenants. And that has to do with repairs, also turnovers, utilities, cleaning, all of that. So there's a lot of companies in this space. If you do co-living or room for rent, do find a property management company that specializes in that. Or you should get very specialized in it if you are self-managing, because it is different how you administer it and how you go about the day-to-day with it.
Yeah, I couldn't stress that last part enough. Co-living is a very, again, I've seen it. I've interviewed people that do it. It's a very profitable business, but you kind of either you do it or you don't, right? It's not something, for example, I would pick up, right? You have hundreds of tenants that are all month to month or year leases, kind of like you said earlier, right? I don't care who's on the lease. It's one lease. You're all responsible. I'll come after all of you, right? I wouldn't suddenly do room for rent because it would be so different. It would probably break my property management system. My expense ratios would be all out of whack. But yeah, working with a team that's focused on it is, because again, you want economies of scale, and you really can't get that, being part-time room for rent and part-time yearly lease. It just feels so different. That's probably why I'm so apprehensive of it. I'm like, oh, no college dorms for me. That's kind of my thinking.
Yep, absolutely. And people do it very well to your point, profitability, but you just want to focus. You want to become a subject matter expert, just like in your location of where you're investing.
Yeah, the other thing I've seen from the people that do it the best is the first one they did is where they lived. Because it's one thing to do house hacking, like where you're in the master bedroom and you're renting to quote unquote friends. That still has drama, but at least you get a taste of it while you're in it. I don't think I'd want to do, like, for example, if I live in Mountain View, I don't know that I'd want to step up and do house hacking on a 5-bedroom, 2-bath or 4-bedroom bath, in Cleveland. I don't think that would be the first thing I'd want to do. Because you just certainly wouldn't want to do that remotely. Oh my God, can you imagine how crazy that would be? But yeah, these are just things to think about.
Yep, absolutely.
Very cool. This is a lot of fun, Dana. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.